at Nigeria Info Abuja on YouTube. Okay, so send in your messages there, your comments. Let's know what you have to say. If you have any contributions into this matter, or if you're having a similar experience or a similar challenge, we're here for you. I'm just going to hand over the mic to my esteemed guest. Yes, Funmi Olubakin here in the house with us this evening. Welcome. Good to have you here, ma'am. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you for having me once again. Always a delight to be on the show.
Thank you. And you're looking very lovely, by the way. I see you have your glasses on, your hair is all nicely done. You're looking really good. Let me stop it there. Well, welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
All right.
We have to give attention to these things, right?
So important. So important. Not for any other person, but for the men in our lives? Or is it just because looking good is good business? Which one is it now?
Well, for me, it's both, actually.
Okay. So because it's good business. All right, that's fine. That's fine.
Looking good is good business.
All right.
And if the men in our lives decide to notice, praise God.
They better know, They should not. No. They better notice. Please.
Some of them are known not to.
No.
You have to call their attention.
Yes, well, we will definitely call their attention to it. All right, let's look at the stories that the men sent in. Yes, so we have Anonymous. Okay, let me take it from Anonymous. Anonymous sent in his message earlier on this week, and he says, "Look, I'm heartbroken. I'm having serious issues here, and I need your help." Okay, he says he's troubled because of this matter. He wants advice. 2 weeks ago, after he had some romantic time with her, which is basically they were intimate. This is somebody who hasn't had sex. He hasn't been sexually active since 2007. And then when he says the last time he had romance with a lady, so the last time he tried some foreplay or tried to get touchy and feely with a lady was in 2017, but still no sex happened. So 2007 till now, no sex. And then, he tried to make his woman feel pleasure. He tried to please her. And he said after 2 hours of, spending quality time on her boobs, at the end of the day, she told him to go and complain to a doctor or meet those selling local drugs to buy drugs to use. And I think he was doing that. He was getting into the foreplay in the bid to have sex with her. But, after 2 hours, he said, she was complaining and he still tried to, touch her and get her to get into the mood so he can have sex with her. And it did not happen. This was after, according to him, he spent time on not just her boobs, but every other part of her body. But somehow she just wasn't pleasured at all. And she told him categorically that he did not make her feel like a woman. Let's start with Anonymous. He says he's based in Ilorin and he came for a short visit to Abuja and listened in on the program, and he decided to share. Please, let's talk about this. What do you think the issues were, and how can we help him?
Okay. Wow, this is quite surprising. Okay, and I find it surprising because he mentioned that he spent 2 hours in foreplay. Or is that not what he said?
2 hours, yes.
Okay. I think that there is a high possibility that was highly exaggerated.
Why?
To start with. Yes.
He said all parts of her body. So he probably tried here, didn't work, tried here, didn't work. Okay, go ahead.
No, if she's attracted to him, which I believe there should be some sort of attraction for them to be together and for them to be planning to get married. I mean, 2 hours is a lot. Okay, so I'm thinking that one is exaggerated. But let's just leave it at the side. Even if it was 30 minutes of foreplay, even if it was 40 minutes of foreplay, it should go a long way, to help prepare a woman for intercourse. So that is just the beginning of my observation, okay? Now, that being said, there are also many other factors that can affect how a woman receives sex, other than the time invested. That is a good one, right?
Okay.
But there are other factors that may affect how receptive she is when it comes to lovemaking. For instance, are they in good terms on this particular day? So, sex is majorly physical. It is very, very physical for men. It's physical response, a physical need, you know, and so it's way easier for them to get into. But for a woman, it is highly emotional. So her feelings that day, you know, matters a lot. How she feels about him on this particular day also matters a lot. So if there has been a lot of connection during the day, okay, if they have had a great time communicating, if they have had non-sexual contact, physical contact, let's say hugs and light kisses, if they have had a foot rub, a back rub at some point, and great conversation all day, you know, it should help. It will help a woman. All of these things count when it comes to love making for a woman. But if they didn't connect well on that day or the day before, or they have had a misunderstanding or a quarrel that is yet unresolved, okay, this is going to affect our response negatively. This is going to affect how she receives or how receptive she is to his advances naturally. It is the way women are. But from the story, I'm thinking that this is their first encounter. For him to say he has not had... For him to say that he has not been intimate with any woman for a long period, you know, years. So it's possible that this is their first encounter. And so all the other factors that I mentioned, I don't know whether they come to play in this situation or not.
Could it also
but now
be...
this woman says, you
didn't make me feel like a woman. I was going to say, could it also be that the fact that he hadn't been sexually active for that long may have contributed to it? I don't know. He says he's 48 years old. I remember seeing his age. He says he's 48 years old, right? Yes, 48 years old. And then since 2007, he hasn't had sex. The last time he was intimate with a woman was in 2017. So let's just chalk it up to... since 2007, yes. No, let's even say from 2007 till now, he hasn't had sex because he was doing this with his fiancée in the build-up to sex. So could it be that the fact that he hadn't been active in that long may have contributed in some sort of way, or does a guy just always have it even when he's?
It is highly possible because number one, it could be out of practice, so to speak. You know. Like they say, if you have a skill that you don't use, you may lose it, may get rusty. The skill may get rusty. So it is possible that is actually out of practice. That is a possibility.
Okay.
But I would say that if that is the issue, a complaint will not actually be like this. It's going to be in another, how do I put this? It will not be like, it didn't make me feel like a woman after 2 hours. Of working. The issue is going to be with the actual intercourse. And from this story, I'm not sure if there was an actual intercourse or not.
They didn't get to that at the end of the day. She told him to go and get help, medical, drugs, everything. Everything.
Yes, that's what makes me think there was intercourse. Because if it is only foreplay, she will not say go and get medical help or go and get the local herbs.
Okay.
Those ones have nothing to do with foreplay at all. If any other thing, they would even make him hasten up the foreplay process out of, you know, being very eager and highly aroused.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that the actual problem was everything altogether, from the foreplay to the actual intercourse. Because she brought him, go and see the doctor and get this job. Yes.
Okay.
So she was disappointed, and that is not funny. It's not a nice place to be for a woman, right?
Especially someone who she's planning to get married to. That may have just Okay. So how do we help? How do we help Anonymous? What would you advise him to do in this situation? Because, I mean, from the tone of the message and everything, he was so heartbroken. What can he do?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So the first thing I'm going to advise for him, or before I even go into the advice, I think that I may want to talk about some things that could have gone wrong in that very scenario. The first one is expectations. Expectations were not properly managed. And the reason why those expectations were not properly managed is because most likely there was no communication.
So when you say expectations, do you mean on both ends, or was it the man's expectations or the woman's expectations now?
The woman's expectations were not met. And that's what led to the disappointments that she felt for the intimate experience that she had with the man. Our expectations were not met. The reasons why our expectations were not met is because there was no proper communication between the two of them. Because how can somebody claim to be doing something with you for 2 hours and it was not nice, it was not enjoyable, and you stayed there and you were counting the minutes or what? So I wonder what their relationship outside of the bedroom is even like. You know, such that she could not say that, okay, this doesn't feel nice, or I prefer this kind of touch, or something like that. Anything. Just give him a hint. The truth is that the way men and women relate with sex is very different. What pleasures a woman is way different from what pleasures a man. It is the way we were wired. And so a lot of communication is required to make this thing work. It's like learning, let's say, a dance, learning new dance steps, okay? You would have to, try. You may not be perfect the first time. It may not go well the second time. You may even trip along the line, right? But with time, with tutorship, it will get better. Many women don't know that they have to communicate. Many women are shy to communicate. I've met women in counseling who told me that they believed for a long time that to communicate pleasure or to even discuss about sex makes you a woman who is not noble. Someone said to me that if I allow my husband to know that I enjoy sex, he's not going to trust me.
Wahala.
So you can imagine that kind of mindset. A married woman, married for about maybe 12 years, as at the time we had that discussion. I just believe that he's not going to trust me. He's going to feel like, okay, he can't travel or he cannot leave me alone. I will be promiscuous or something like that. Can you see?
That's scary.
So for all of the years that she had been married, nothing about expressing pleasure, nothing about making the first move for sex, nothing of such. If he asks, I deliver and I go. That was how she approached sex. And so we had to get some work done. So women have a lot of, mindsets like that may hold them back during an intimate encounter. Communication comes in this particular one. Why didn't she speak?
Okay.
I believe she should have at some point.
Okay, so let me I'm not sure the word to use here as a devil's advocate, but just reading from the message that Anonymous sent in, she tried to help him, or how do I put it? She tried to compensate for the fact that she wasn't enjoying what he was doing. Because he started by saying he spent, let me see it here, he spent time 2 hours on her boobs. That's what he said. And then and then he proceeded to say that she now gave him other parts of her body to try, right? So just reading this, I'm hearing a woman who was communicating, who was showing him by some way, whether by saying it out verbally or by her body language, that she wasn't really feeling it. So this woman was communicating. And the man says, look, the problem is not for me because, I had a hard on all through the experience. Even it lasted into the next day. So this man was in pain by the next day because, he had tried and it couldn't work. And he spent the better part of 24 hours with a boner and a hard on. So at the end of the day, it's a case of she's communicating, right? But at the same time, she's trying to be direct and firm in the way she's saying it. She said, look, this matter is like the way we've not had sex since. Let's not do it now. Let's leave it for when we get married. But I heard you say something about, it's like, what's that thing you said about practice? I'm not quite sure. Was it so dancing? You made reference to dancing.
Yes.
And, so what that would entail, if we're to go by what you said, is that they should try a few more times and see how it will work for them. But this woman has even put it on hold. Now, the fear is, assuming they go ahead and get married, he's already feeling a bit insecure. And then the woman is saying, look, I can't go through this now. Just leave it. When we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. But then the fear is that when they get there, his insecurities will play out again from this experience that he's had with her. And then we also have a woman who will probably, because she's married now, will now say, let me not even talk. If I talk now, to be as if I am making him feel bad, right? So the question is, between now and when they're able to get married, assuming this doesn't become such a problem that they can't even consider getting married, what can they do?
Oh, well, between now and when they get married, ideally, in my own opinion, they shouldn't even be having sex. And that is why it will become a bigger issue for them. If people were married and they tried to have sex and it didn't feel good at first, you see what I spoke about before, it will be easy for them to accept and say, we will try again later. And to be very, very truthful, sex gets better. First time sex is not as good as, say, the 20th sex with the same person.
But that's under the assumption that you are dealing with virgins, isn't it? These people do not seem to be virgins.
Yes. I'm not even talking about virgins. I'm talking about two people generally. Say the 20th sex will be better than the first time sex because now you know this person better, you understand their responses better, you can tell when they are super aroused, you have had practice. It's just like that dance illustration that I was saying. But in this case, you try to have sex with somebody for the first time, a new partner, even if you have been sexually active before, a new partner for the first time, and then it doesn't go well. There's a part of you that is even remembering the other partners that you have had. You see, and how it went. And so you have something to compare. You have something to compare this new experience with. And then you are thinking, is this how it will be forever with this person? What if it doesn't get better? It is complicated. But the truth is that sex gets better. That is the very truth about this matter. So two people in a committed relationship, when they give intimacy a go, they have the opportunity to learn and relearn and learn some more. The man said that he was sucking and playing with her boobs and all of that. He probably wasn't doing it well. He probably was doing it, maybe it was too harsh. Maybe he went straight for the nipples when she wasn't ready for that. Maybe he even introduced teeth. We don't know what exactly he was doing with it. And she found it, non-pleasurable at all. If they were to be in a committed relationship like marriage, and both of you know that, okay, it is me and you, even if this thing is not going well, we would have to find a way to make sure that it is working for us. We are not going anywhere. You see, they would be able to make it work. They would give it time. They will practice over and over again. When they fail, they will be able to laugh about it. And try again on another day. It
takes two people who have communication at that level to be able to laugh about things like that. Because I remember you also made reference to the fact that you've spoken to people who are married, women, you did mention women. I'm not sure if you had such conversation with men, but you mentioned that you've spoken to women who are married who are not even able to communicate, whether it is that they are like enjoying it or they are not enjoying it. So we have that to deal with. So yeah, so it takes people who are absolutely in sync in their communication to be able to laugh about it. Otherwise, you would have situations where, because they cannot express that their problem is the lack of pleasure in bed, you will now start having other issues come up from it. I had someone say on the show one time that, look, if you have money, you are good in your relationship. Once you have money, you can do anything for the woman in your life. You will not have any problem. Some people feel that that's sex. They said if the sex is good in your marriage or in your relationship, then you will not have any other problem. I don't know if we can get into that conversation to prove or disprove, but it does play a key role in marriages. So there has to be that communication on point for you to say, okay, let's even try it again. Because from the way this lady spoke to the man, according to the story that he shared with us, the way she said, go and get medical help, take drugs, do this, do that, I don't know how that will feel. I don't know how he, as a man, would take it. Men and their egos.
The full story was not reported.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. For her to say, go and get drugs, go and see the doctor, it has to do with the penetrative aspect of their encounter. That is the only part you need drugs to fix, or that is the only part that men tend to take drugs to fix to be able to last longer in bed.
Okay.
If he had told us what I'm suspecting to be the truth, it would be that it didn't last very long, during the penetrative aspect of the sex. Okay. And I would have been able to excuse him and say, oh, that must be due to, eagerness after a whole long time. After many years of doing without penetrative sex, I would have been able to excuse him and say that, okay, when you have sex more regularly, this will become better.
Okay.
But then he didn't mention that, and I cannot just be making excuses for him.
Okay. All right. We're going to get to penetration with the next story. That's going to usher us into the next story. But before then, let's see if we can get some listener reactions. Okay, the phone lines are open. I want to hear from the men and the women who would dare to call in and share with us on this. First and foremost, you heard what the man says. I want to get a guy's opinion on this. Help us deduce this, because there are two women talking about the challenges that this man is facing. And make no mistake, just because we are women does not mean that we cannot have a say, but I want to get a guy's perspective. First and foremost, Funmi Olubakin is a certified sex therapist, so she has worked with men, she has worked with women. That's not an issue, but we just want to hear from the guys. What do you think the problem is on this one? And then as a woman, if any woman can call in, I want to know, when a woman says, you are not making me feel like a woman, what exactly is she saying? Let's hear from this caller now. Let's take this caller. Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Hi. Good evening. Good to have you here.
Yes. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. How are you, King?
Fine. I couldn't reach you yesterday, but I was listening all through. I think it was a little bit deliberate, and at the same time, yesterday's program was somehow, so couldn't talk till you left. I tried to reach you, you rang, but you didn't pick up. Yeah. So how are you?
It's good to have you here today.
Madam, well done. Madam Funmi, good evening.
All right, Mrs. Funmi, the caller is saying hello. I hope you can hear him.
Yeah, my name is King.
Okay, go ahead, King.
Hello.
Yes, I must commend Madam for having, let me use the word liver, to be able to talk with confidence like that. I'm really impressed. Well done, ma. And I want to say, like, with a little I know a lot of women can be really shy when it comes to talking about sex, just like she mentioned. And even with some men, you get it. Some men cannot freely talk about sex with women, but they can talk freely with men. And then there with recently with some of the things I know, some men cannot even do some things I can't think about it. I can't even imagine doing it. And I was surprised that I know somebody that could tell me that, because we grew up together, and I was thinking at a point he was feeling like a bad guy, but now he cannot do some stuff that I can do. You get it? And though while we were growing up, I think I was more getting attracted to women than him. And then now that he's having issues, I just can't believe it. So sometimes it could be your gene. It not just be like because there's no communication, or it could be from blood. It could be like a hereditary or stuff. I'm not too sure about what I'm saying now. But for me, that I know I'm very active, and I cannot just imagine somebody that looks stronger than me while we're growing up, and then has issues with making love, or probably not knowing what to do, or not communicating very well. So sometimes I think it's really hard to do with the medical thing. It has to do with your health. At the point, I had to tell that man I know that you need to start doing exercise. You get it, and then at the point it could even be anything. It could be the food you at the point you start eating. You get, maybe you were not eating that food, and in the last few years you start eating that kind of food, and then it makes you. It could just be anything, but I think communication is a very good thing to do. If you communicate freely, you talk to your partner about sex freely, because we live in a world whereby you're not freely scored. You can't. I think even the churches should start doing things about it. When young people and youth fellowship, we bring a lot of topics that have to do with relationships and sex to help people feel relaxed. You get it, and not start feeling as if, okay, you cannot talk about these things except you're preparing to get married or about to get married. So that's just a little I could say about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing, King.
Yes.
All right, then. Thank you. I appreciate that. King, with a few things to say about it. He says, first and foremost, it's difficult for people to have such conversations, especially in this part of the world. Women might be a bit reserved about talking about it. And then men also, he says he's had situations where men who he thought were even like the bad guys, the ones who were running things in the street, when they did eventually open up, one particular person who he said eventually opened up, and it turned out that he was even more of a bad guy than the person. But he also mentioned that communication is key. Communication does help. And then he said something which I would like Funmi Olubakin to get into. He mentioned something about how churches should have those conversations, open up conversations around sex and relationships, and not just leave it for when people are going to get married. I'm sure at some point Funmi will respond to that. I just need to confirm, did you hear the caller, Ms. Funmi?
I did.
Oh,
I did,
you did?
to a large extent.
To a large extent. Okay. We have one more person calling. Let's take this person, and then we'll see how you can react on both conversations. Hello? Hello? Uh-oh. Okay. This person doesn't seem to be here. Okay, I have some messages here. Let me just take them while Mrs. Olubakin is gathering her thoughts together. We would respond to some of these things and then get into the second conversation. Yakubu, who was having a problem with his wife and considering divorce because she complained that the size of his penis is too big. Okay, Joseph from Benjamin, Senator Captain Dugara? We see you. I see you watching live from, is this Apa? Joseph Benjamin from Apa. I see Captain Dugara from Kanu. You said you miss us, your best radio station. Well, we're glad that we can still be here for you. Esther John and Sam G. Gang are saying good evening and reporting where they're watching live from. A few other people here. But Stephen Uku says some contemporary challenges may affect the man from taking the wife to the peak of sexual pleasures, like work pressure, economic realities, mental exhaustion, lean communication, all very valid points. Let's take this call. Hello? And I keep losing you. All right, let's come back to Funmi Olubakin. Your thoughts on the comments by, the person that called in and any other thing else that we've said, so that we can get into the next topic.
All right. Yes, ma'am. So I should start with the issue about the church talking about it?
Whichever one you want to respond to.
Okay. So he has made a lot of valid points, and that one catches my attention because it amazes me how everything, in this part of in this country has become the church's responsibility. It's so amazing. When we talk about joblessness, it is the church that people will talk to next. When we talk about sex now, it is now even the problem of the church. It is still the church that didn't teach people how to have sex. It is amazing. It is amusing. Two adults, they could have taken it upon themselves to learn, to read up in this information age. Information on anything and everything is all over the internet. But no. Why not the pastor? Why didn't the pastors, the church? It doesn't really work that way. Of course, most churches have premarital counseling units or stuff like that, institutes where they prepare people for every aspect of marriage,
including sex.
But you see, no matter how much someone says to you, you get good at something through practice.
Okay.
You don't get good by listening alone. You get good by acting. You get good by doing. That's what makes you a master of a craft. Okay, so even if the church or counselors or therapists were to tell you that this is what you are going to do, the moment you do not practice it, you are not going to be able to master it. So I'm still going back to what I said before. These two people are having their first sexual encounter together. They cannot expect it to be the best. They would have to give it time. It is simply the way it is. It is people that don't actually know what they are saying, that paint sex like you meet a stranger, you guys look into each other's eyes, you find one corner, begin to throw clothes away. It doesn't work that way.
Mrs. Funmi, this thing you are saying, some people will take you up on it. They have had night stands. They have had one night stands with people, and they say that was probably the best sex they had in their life. So this thing you are saying, they will hold you.
Were they under the influence of some hard drug?
I can't speak for them.
We are going to have to consider everything.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay, someone else tried calling in, but the network wasn't having it. I did say that we would like to get the listeners' contributions on this. We've had someone call in and say, okay, communication, just brought back some of the things that Mrs. Olubakin had talked about. But let's see if we can get a few more calls. I'm spending my time to talk to you because we want to get varied opinions, so it's not like we're just going on one particular angle. But we really need to get to Yakubu's case. Yakubu's case is very important, Mrs. Olubakin. But let me take this call.
Yes, but before we go on to Yakubu's case, can I just round up with my thoughts on this one?
Okay, right after this call. Could you just hold that? Someone is on the line. Hello.
Okay. Honestly, I'll be very brief because I heard what you both just said concerning rounding up. I only mentioned the church, because growing up, the church will keep telling us things that has to do and people will just get scared of anything that has to do with sex and relationship. I'm not just talking about the church alone. Every religious body or any organization that could help out to make people relax, feel free that this thing is a normal thing. Once you get to a certain age, you get it, not for kids, but at least in the youth fellowship where you're already telling, okay, you're going to grow up. So that boys and girls can be free to relate to some certain level and understand themselves. It helps a whole lot. There are guys that grow up or girls that grow up that see men as their enemy. They see them as if they're one, like one predator. You get so anytime a guy is trying to do or a lady is trying to do anything, then they come with one anxiety, one fear that they, because all the things they fear from their parents and from church leaders and stuff like that. What I'm just trying to say is to make young people to feel relaxed with these things. That's what I'm trying to say.
All right then. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, let's have your reactions, and then you wanted to round up your thoughts on this. Go ahead, please.
Please,
Mrs.
can you
Olubakin.
go over what he said, please? I didn't quite get it.
He was talking about the fact that he was the person that called and mentioned the church, and he was explaining why he said he's not saying it's the sole responsibility of the church, but the role that the church has played in making these conversations difficult to have. That's just a quick summary of what he was saying.
Okay. So more blames for the church. It's still the church that made the conversations more difficult to have. What happened to parents educating their children at home?
Well, like he said, he didn't say it's solely the responsibility of the church. He did say that they have played a role, not that they.
If we want to bring the church into this one, the church is not going to teach you how to have sex with the person you are not even married to in the first place. So the church doesn't come in.
Okay, all right. Let's get you wrap up your thoughts on this so we can get to Yakubu's matter.
Okay, so it takes selflessness and a lot of patience to satisfy a woman. Okay, and I also truly believe that it is the desire of most men to give the women they get intimate with a really great time. It is the desire of most men. In my experience, this is what I have come to find out. But the problem lies in the fact that they don't quite know how to do it. So they are interested, they really, really want to blow our mind, but many of them don't know how to go about it. The concept of foreplay, they don't understand it because it is something that a man needs to be able to have great sex. I mean, just touch his hair, he's ready. You know, you can say you are trying to cut his fingernails, for instance, or his toenails. You know, the other part of him is already responding. He's ready. But it doesn't work that way for a woman. So men don't really understand the concept of foreplay. They have to work on that, get more knowledge in that regard.
Okay.
Another thing is that, so for a man, sex is, say, penetration, right? But most women don't even get to the climax of sexual enjoyment through penetrative sex only.
It has to be a combo.
This is so for most women.
Okay.
And so the queen of the play, the queen of sex, when it comes to pleasuring a woman, is actually the clitoris. If you will give attention to that with your woman's guidance so that you will know exactly how she desires for her clitoris to be pampered, then you are good to go.
Okay.
This is the case for up to 80% or 75% of women. Okay, so if our men can pay attention to these things, number one is foreplay. Very important, cannot be rushed. You know, a guy wrote a book, I think it's Tim Lai. He wrote a book titled Sex Begins in the Kitchen. It's an all-day affair for a woman. You know, for her to feel good about herself, feel good about you, feel like you are really on her side, not on the day that you quarrel over money, you refuse to give her money for, maybe she asked for something, you were angry that food was not ready on time, you were grumpy around the house, you know, even shouting at the children for no reason. Then you fall into bed by 10:30 and you say, babe, you know, it doesn't work that way for women. A great atmosphere all day where she feels loved and noticed by you. Then the foreplay, that's number two. And the third thing that I mentioned, which is don't put all your focus and all your energy on penetrative sex.
Okay.
It doesn't work that way for most women.
Okay. All right. Which brings us to the second matter on ground, which I'm hoping we can get into and probably dissect and give solutions to. Yakubu sent in this message about a week ago or so, and he says he's considering divorcing his wife because she's constantly complaining about the size of his penis when he's trying to have sex with her. It's so bad that, you know, they haven't been having sex. And he's like, I'm tired. I want out of this marriage. What do we do? What do we say to Yakubu on this? What could be the problem?
Okay, so, you know, this one is, this one makes me smile because we will say one man's meat is another man's poison. There are women who say they want a bigger penis size, and here is Yakubu's wife saying too much of a good thing is bad. Okay, so they would need a lot of They will need a lot of wisdom, so to speak, to be able to navigate their own special situation. This is a special circumstance. It's not something that comes up often. It's not something that is a problem often. They would have to, engage a lot of patience in their own situation. And now that they are already, talking about divorce, that makes it even worse. It will be easier to deal with if they are both in agreement and are both ready to find a way around this very peculiar situation that they're in. It is manageable. Okay, it is manageable.
How?
I always believe that, the organs are meant for each other. The penis and vagina are meant for each other. So they can always navigate it. But it takes dedication and it takes patience, okay, and a willingness to try a lot of other things. Okay, it's still intercourse we're talking about, but they will try it in different ways.
Because I'm just imagining, and I hear you trying to be conservative in the way you're addressing this matter, Mrs. Olubakin. I want you to bust out with with this conversation, and here's why. The man on his own says, "I need to have sex with my wife. Why should the size of my manhood be a problem?" But for a woman to be complaining, and not just once or twice, but constantly, to the point that the man feels so deprived, he's considering a divorce, it means that she must be experiencing some form of pain or discomfort, because you are married to this man, right? You want to be able to please him and have him please you, but she won't just be complaining if she was not genuinely experiencing discomfort. And I don't even want discomfort you can manage, but pain. So when you say there are ways to navigate it, perhaps you can give Yakubu, who is listening, I hope, 1 or 2 tips. First and foremost, he's the one that brought forward the conversation, and he's the one considering divorce.
Yes.
He didn't say the wife is considering leaving him. He said he is considering leaving the wife. So can we give a few pointers to Yakubu on how to navigate this one? Not in theory now, but in practice.
Okay, so first, there are about 5 or 6, I could go on and on about what they can change, the two of them. This is not one person's work, okay? And Mr. Yakubu himself has the huge chunk of the work to do. Because even a man with a average sized manhood too has some work to do. Sex can become uncomfortable for a woman, even with an average sized dick, depending on her time of the month. Okay, which greatly affects how receptive a woman is when it comes to lovemaking. So a penis size that has been working may decide not to even work, may feel uncomfortable at certain times of the month. Not to now talk of one that has been described as huge, all right? That's bigger than average, bigger than what should be normally expected. One of the things that may be causing the issues the woman has is not enough lubrication. So she's at a point where she's already scared of what he's going to bring. Okay? Mm-hmm. When she's scared of what he's going to offload, her mind shuts down. And for a woman, the mind is the biggest sex organ. Her mind shuts down. She's even afraid already. She wishes this cup will pass over her already. That is going to lead to dryness. When she's not properly lubricated, even with an average sized manhood, that is still a problem. Not to now talk of with an extra large one, right? So lubrication, first, they would have to lube up. This is one way to make things easier for the woman. Another thing I fear might have happened is that maybe she got a little tear, which is possible on the vagina at some point, at one time. And before it healed, they attempted sex again. So that will now make sex painful. The first one may not be so painful, it may just be a bruise or something. But when it is trying to heal and then that area is attacked again, so to speak, it becomes painful. And if she finds herself in that position, she's going to do everything within her power to avoid intercourse.
Could
So first is
Yeah.
you have to
Okay.
get a lube, and you have to be very generous with it, as in extremely generous. You apply on her and you apply on yourself from cap to base, so that no matter what, there will be no friction. The truth is that the vagina is such an interesting organ, right? It is very elastic. It can both, and it's elastic both ways, both to go in and to come out. And so that is why a baby can find its way in. And that is why also there are people that practice some sexual stuff that I don't want to talk about here. But you'll be shocked to hear what people actually insert in.
Yeah.
Okay? But a lot of patience, a lot of lube. So as a man with a big manhood, you know that you cannot just get into the game and just start trusting like that. No, it's not going to work for you, and it will be very, very terrible for the woman you are with.
Okay.
You have to start. You introduce yourself into her ever so gently, ever so slowly, with all the possible lube that you people can tolerate. Okay? So that is one place to start from.
Okay.
Should I go on?
Definitely. But let's see if we can take some contributions from the callers.
Yes,
I've had my phone lines have been buzzing constantly. Let's see if we can give some room for people to respond. I do have a few messages as well. Let me see if I can take it from the top. Right. So Stephen Uku says, if the marriage is priority, you study a lot from bookish sources, and constant practice will gradually help the man take his wife to the peak. I think he's saying that regarding the first scenario and this one. He also goes ahead to recommend, I think this is a book. He said The Acts of Marriage to the couple. All right, let's take this caller and we'll come back to the messages. Hello.
That's a great book.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Welcome.
Yeah, it's Mimi.
Welcome back, Mimi.
Yeah, you see, that lady that she say the man doesn't make her to feel like a woman.
Yeah.
It's because of the man doesn't respond what she wants. That's why she said that. And you know, for men nowadays, for religion, as a Muslim, we don't make that thing before we get married. And for Christians too, it's very important. Maybe the man has made up his mind is not going to make anything with her until she get married with the lady. That's why. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope when they nearly marry now, make sure they take a camo and milk. I beg. Make you no disappoint her.
Wait,
Thank you.
who should be taking their camera milk, Mimi, the man or the woman?
The woman and the man, all of them.
All of
so
them.
They can get us baby. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Oh, and fruit. Very fruit.
Fruits. Okay.
Yeah. It's very good. Yeah. And
Okay.
you know, communication is like sex, if you don't know. Because there's a word you'll be saying to a man, you'll be making him to be stimulated like as a woman, you know.
Okay.
There is 300%, I'm telling you. Very, very important.
Okay. Thank you
Very
so
important.
much for
Thank you,
sharing,
ma'am.
Mimi. All right, Mimi there with some thoughts. She says, especially in scenarios where you don't engage in the act of intercourse before you get married, she's advising the lady who says her man doesn't make her feel like a woman. She says, get ready, start drinking akamba milk, she says, and take lots of fruits. And she also said, communicate as well. Let's take this other caller. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah, good evening. This
Good evening.
is calling from Warrington.
All right, Boniface, talk to us. You have a minute.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. What I want to say here is on the first topic and the second one.
Okay.
I think the first topic of is depend on you know, for men it depend on the approach. Your first approach it means a lot to a woman. Some women need your first approach. That's you need to you don't just come in directly want to start having sex with you. Some they don't just feel it, but they will not let you know. Then it was after the sex they have to let you know. Some will know, some will not even let you know. But I think before you have sex with your woman, you need to touch her, make her feel some, give her some kind of romance, or give her some kind of touch in some areas, there's some women that say they have some weak points. And for the man that is complaining of his wife, I think the best is not about getting divorced, He may get another woman and may complain the same thing, but I think he have to apply his sense. And then I think the value point your guest just speaking there, I think she's making a valid point to him, which I think if he apply that, is going to work for him.
All right then. Thank you so much for sharing. So let's let Mrs. Olubakin make some more valid points that would help Yakubu out because we have another 5 minutes before we wrap this up. So please go ahead, ma'am. You talked about lubrication. That would help for someone who has a large size penis and it's a problem with their significant other. Please let's hear what other solutions you have for the likes of Yakubu and any other guy listening.
Okay, so after, lubrication and all of that, I would say that spending a lot of time on foreplay is also a great idea. It's going to help the woman to relax. If she is aroused, if she's very aroused herself, the vaginal muscles will relax and it will make, accepting his gifts easier on her. All right. So being relaxed mentally, being relaxed, being comfortable, being turned on is going to make the job a lot easier. Another thing is playing around with positions, with sex positions.
Okay.
They have to explore. They have to explore and try out as many sex positions as possible to be able to arrive at one that works for both of them. Okay, I would suggest positions where the woman has control as to the depth.
Right.
Okay, meaning that she's positioned in such a way that she can control how much of him she takes in. And she can easily shift or move, to avoid taking in too much at every particular time. This is going to go a long way to make things easier for the both of them. So, for instance, a position like man on top that we call missionary, it may not work for them.
Okay.
This one may not work for them because all the control is with the man. And he's going to do it the way he likes, the way he's enjoying it. He may want to drive deeper. He may want to dig deeper, okay? But if we reverse it and they try out the cowgirl position, which is where the woman is on top. Okay. She can use her knees to raise herself if it is getting too much. She can control how slowly she descends, okay?
Okay.
So that position is one that will work very well in this kind of situation. It gives the woman a lot of control. And then the reverse cowgirl too is just like the one I just described, only that in the first one, the woman is facing the man. In the second one, she's backing him.
Okay.
Yes, okay. So they can make use of this kind of stuff. There are other positions too that will work well, for them, considering the very challenge that they are experiencing. They can go ahead and go in search of them as our time is fast spent.
Okay. So Mrs. Olubakin, Funmi Olubakin, with a few tips there for Yakubu, and hopefully we've been able to address the concerns of the two men who sent in messages. Just saying these are the issues that they're having. We have quite a number of messages here, which I will be getting to, but let me see if I can take this one. The size of the penis is a matter. If Yakubu does not know the manner of penetration for each size of penis, let there be no divorce yet until he checks on the manner of penetration required to stimulate his wife. Okay, we have that message here. I also have this. Good evening, Somi and Mrs. Funmi. I greet you both. You are doing well. And then he goes ahead to ask a question, which I'm not sure we'll be able to answer here. But he says he wants to know if it's possible for someone to forget how to make love after a long time. He says, I cannot remember growing up that either my father or uncle sat me down and taught me how to make love when I get married. And if that man who has a full woman on bed, not knowing what it is okay, he didn't conclude that very well, but he says it's not something that he is typically taught. You have to learn it, you have to understand it, and all of that. All right, we have to go on a quick break here. We still have Funmi Olubakin, a sex certified marriage counselor and sex therapist, with us in the house, looking at 2 case studies that were brought forward regarding how to please the women sexually in their lives. But we'll be right back after this break to take on some more conversations, and let's see how we can get on with it to wrap up when we get back. All right, then. Thank you so much. Do stay with Nigeria Info. We'll be right back.
This is Nigeria Info.